Okay, this is some instructions about judging duet acting. So first of all, like every time, go check in at your table. So check in at the judges table. So make sure you've done that. And pick up rubrics, judging sheets. If it's round one or round two, if it's round three, the performers will bring it to you. When you go in the room, they'll also give you your room number so you're in the right space. Make sure you're in the right room. Check it against the number on the door. When you go to your room, make sure the room is kind of set up. And this is probably only for round one, but for duet, they need a good 10-foot by 10-foot space in the middle of the room. So if you could do that, if that's not already set up, please do that. And then you should be in front of them. So you're front and center at the very front. And then they have like a 10-foot, 10 by 10-foot stage ish area. They can use a table and they can use two chairs if they'd like. They do not have to. So, if they use it, though, need to use them well and they need to try to use their space. That's part of the judging rubric. What you're looking for when they're doing a duet is that they have obvious characters. So each student can play more than one character, but it needs to be very obvious when they're changing characters. If they have an accent, the accent needs to stay through the whole time. If they have a certain persona and that's who they're supposed to be, that's who they're portraying, that needs to stay the whole time. So you're looking for that. You're looking for a good storyline that makes sense because they're acting it well, that you can follow the storyline. If you can't follow the storyline, that is definitely something I would knock them down for. If you can't figure out what's going on with the scene, if you can't tell what's happening, if they have pretend props and they're disappearing, or they have a door and then they forget the door's there later, things like that. You need to make sure that their scene is set and they've kept it that way. They need to have an obvious climax that they're doing with their acting, that makes a focal point of the scene that they're getting to. They need to have good flow and energy. And if you're just sitting there and you enjoy it and you just get lost in their duet, they have good flow and energy. If you get a little bored, you're like, I'm wondering where they are, I'm wondering where they're going with that, they don't have good flow and energy. So that's a comment you can put on there. You can't really make any mention of it being short or too long unless there's a timer, and we probably will not have timers unless it's the finals. So you can't really comment on that, but in the finals you can. On every time you do an event, it will tell you at the bottom what their maximum time limit is or what their minimum if they have that too. And so if you have a timer present, you can ask them what the time was and you can write that down. And if it's significantly too short, you can write, hey, this doesn't seem long enough, or if it's over, you can dock for that. So it tells you on the rubric though what you can do for that. Um, what you should do while you're judging. This is always a question everybody asks. Whatever, it doesn't really matter, but you need to be consistent. So some people sit there stone faced. Some people, smile and shake their head when they're enjoying it and whatever. Some people write notes the entire time. It's fine if you write notes. Just be careful because there are things going on the stage that you should be paying attention to. So make sure you're looking up a lot. But whatever you do, do it for every single group that you judge. So you're not giving one group an unfair advantage. Um, Talking to the groups before or after, you can just be careful. Don't ask them what school they're from. Don't ask them how old they are because those are kinds of things that you don't even realize influence your judging. That's why they don't tell you that. That's why it's not on their sheet. So, but you can talk to them a little bit after, but you don't have to. So that's up to you. But you should not be giving advice or giving them input on their acting afterwards. You can just, do a little chit chat is fine. Um, they should be giving you an introduction. It tells you that the introduction they should come out of character. They should be adding to what's happening by giving you a little bit of an explanation. Doesn't have to be long. And it should be obvious. Oh, this is the introduction. And then, oh, we're going back to the duet now. So the way they present that should be very obvious. Then when they're done, you rank them and you give them a rank 1 to however many in your room. Let's say you have 7. So 1 to 7, 1 being the best. I tend to, as I'm going, put them in the order. And if my first place one stays on the bottom and then I tuck them in as I go. So that helps me when I go back, if I want to write a little more or put some things on there, I can, and I keep kept mine ranked. Do what you want, but that's just an idea. And then the quality points, which is the number from 25 to 0 down there, you have to put those in too. So you have to choose a rank, which no one can have the same rank. You cannot give any ties. Then you have to give quality points. Quality points can be the 7. So let's say your first and second were both amazingly good and it was a smidge. You could hardly tell, but you chose one over the other. You can give them both a 25. But you cannot give, like, let's say your first place and your fourth place cannot get a 25 and your first place get a 22. That doesn't make any sense. Your rankings have got to, as your rankings go down, your quality points should go down. Okay, does that make sense? But you can, if your second and third place were both, you could hardly tell the difference, and you gave your first a 25 and your second a 23 and then your third a 23, that's okay. But then your fourth, if it's was worse, then it should be 24, or your fourth place, and then it should be 22. Okay, does that make sense? Fifth place, 21. Um, I never give worse than a 15 just because they stood up there and they did it. Unless, of course, they walk into the room and they just give you your name and they leave. Which, if that happens, it's probably what we call a filler person. They're just in there to make sure we have 6 so somebody could qualify for state. Rank them low. They didn't do anything. That's fine. But as long as they stood up there and did something, don't give them less than a 15. Okay. Um, but those quality points count when it comes to ties. So it's not that they're unimportant. They are very important and they come into play all the time. So give good quality points, but make sure you're doing it correctly. Then when you're all done, make sure they're all signed. Make sure the correct round is on all of them and the correct room is on all of them, and then take them back to the lobby, to the judges table. Let them go through them and make sure you did it all right. They're going to check that your rankings are in the correct order and your quality points, and then get your next set and go to your next event. So hopefully that's enough, and that makes sense. And thank you for doing this.